Today we're joined by Madeleine, who is the founder of Customerization.
Customerization supports businesses to increase retention, to decrease customer acquisition costs, and grow customer bases through the power of community. I've spent practically my whole career launching or growing subscription or membership businesses in media, entertainment, and the professional services sector.
When you can move people from being a customer, for instance, into being a fan, that's when they start becoming your advocates. That's when they start helping out with first-line customer support, kind of unintentionally.
Why is it that some organizations harness that or get that real passion from their customers?
Like, people are happy to drop their Netflix subscription for a few months while they wait for something else to come out, while they watch something, go back a few years and people will just have everything. And now people were like, oh, I can be a bit more savvy about this.
In my opinion, Netflix does not do very well on the community element. It's a very transactional relationship with the organization.
Madeleine, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Hello and welcome to the Digital Community Leaders podcast, where we chat with community managers, champions and founders about their experience leading and supporting digital communities. My name's Pete Heslop and I lead the team at Steadfast Collective, and we exist to craft digital applications that bring people together. We created the Digital Community Leaders podcast to be a bite-sized look into what it takes to grow, start and scale digital communities. Today we're joined by Madeleine, who is the founder of Customerization. Madeleine, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, and so pleased to join you today. It's brilliant. Thank you so much for inviting me on. Very excited to chat with you. Hello everyone, my name is Madeleine Milne and I am founder of Customerization.com, as Pete told you. Customerization supports businesses to increase retention, to decrease customer acquisition costs and grow customer bases through the power of community. I've spent practically my whole career launching or growing subscription or membership businesses in media, entertainment, and the professional services sector. And I decided to set up Customerization.com as I saw firsthand through the work that I did the impact that empowering your customers and encouraging their advocacy and their enthusiasm, listening to what they have to say and respecting their opinion has huge impact on business outcomes, huge positive impact on business outcomes, I should say. So that is a bit about me. My career is, as I say, gone across media, entertainment and professional services. I started out in magazine publishing. I then launched and grew a digital music subscription business, that in the end had a community of over 50,000 avid music fans. I was at a time at a national newspaper, and then most recently I've been helping to run a professional services membership organisation that was supporting predominantly women to get non-executive positions. And during my time, we grew the community to over 40,000 members, and it's now probably the most effective community for people who have boardroom aspirations, basically. So I've been working in many, many different sectors, but the sort of common theme or theme that runs through it all is membership and subscription services. And have they changed over the years? But yes, looking forward to chatting to you today.
Yeah, that's really exciting. So back when you were working in the kind of music publishing kind of world, I'm guessing the initial plan wasn't to start a community, but that was secondary to kind of the success of what was going on. Is that what was happening?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would say over the years that I've worked, and it's been over 20 to show my age, over 20 in this space. I mean, back in the day, I would say that the whole subscription space was a little bit more, how could I say it, sort of undercover in its mechanisms. So, there'd be free trials. I don't know if you remember the days where you'd have, take out a free trial, you'd have to put in your credit card details, and then the organization might not remind you that it's going to go on to paid. Then we had the rise of sort of product-led subscription offerings because of the amazing technological advances that we saw through Amazon and Netflix and so forth, and offerings like Prime. And then what I've what's happened, I feel, is that consumer behavior has hugely changed. So consumers are very much, wanting to be involved with what organizations are doing. They're much more purpose-driven and values-led. And so they want to know what products stand for. And as a result, what I say is that it's now the time for community, because the
Mm,
community can, if you engage your customers in what you're doing, you're much more likely to be more successful and grow, basically. Um, so yeah, as I say, at the start of all my experience, it was very sort of transactional, and actually a lot of the work I'm doing at the moment is helping membership and subscription organizations to move from that more transactional behavior to one where you're much more involved with your customers,
mm.
and you're sort of engaging with them and bringing them with you.
Yeah, definitely.
So developing communities.
Yeah, for sure. And in that, it's kind of, when you can move people from being a customer, for instance, into being a fan, that's when they start becoming your advocates. That's when they start helping out with first line customer support, kind of unintentionally on social media or in forums. And before you know it, you've kind of got this group of people who are passionate about a product, which ultimately is, it could be quite dull. Like, let's take like Monzo Bank, for instance. Like, they started their community in their forum. What is ultimately quite a boring product. It's banking. It's moving money from one place to another. Have a really loyal fan base of people who will happily get involved in beta programs, testing things, telling other people about it, all because that community that built up in the early days of we're Monzo people, and before that it was called Mondo, but yeah, Monzo people.
Was it called Mondo? I did not know that.
Yeah, and then there was a legal case, so they had to change it. So I've got an original Mondo card.
Okay,
I was an early person in the program. So yeah, they changed it about a couple of
so
years in.
cool. And I bet, yeah, I mean, are you as a big an advocate as you were at the start?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah. I'm still really
Yeah,
keen, still really happy with where we're at with it and everything. So
good.
it's obviously become a lot more mainstream now. So it's a lot. The community is less tight, but I still feel involved in what's going on, and I'm still a shareholder and whatnot when they did their crowdfunding. So.
Oh, brilliant. That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly interesting to look at all these case studies where, why is it that some organizations harness that or get that real sort of passion from their customers? I mean, my specialization is very much paid for communities. So, as I say,
Hmm.
membership organizations, or traditionally what would be known as subscription businesses. But even they have a community, because, well, you can develop a community with them if you sort of bring your customers with you. So if you take your example of Monzo, that's not a paid for community, but the people, the early adopters, felt very involved with what the business
Hmm.
was doing. So you liked what they stood for.
Yeah,
They included you. They wanted to hear your voice. They wanted your involvement, and it's so powerful.
yeah.
Look at the size of them now.
Yeah, for sure. Quite a few years ago, I read a book called Rework, and there's a section there which I always remember called "When you are marketing your business, you should be emulating chefs." Just because you tell everybody how, what, and why you do something doesn't mean someone's just going to set up shop next door and open the new, Gordon Ramsay restaurant to the same quality. And community is very much the same. You want those leading the community to be telling people what the future plans are. People love seeing behind the curtain, and that happens more so than ever in community, because people want
Totally.
to feel a part of it, don't they? Like, especially having,
Yeah.
been through the whole COVID thing, people want to feel part of often small niche communities, and they want to feel part of
Yeah. Yeah.
a
Yeah.
place where people have their back and they have a say. And quite often in traditional corporate businesses, some of which we work with, they get worried about telling people future plans and almost saying too much, like a competitor might steal that idea. And I'm thinking, I mean, they might do, but if you had a loyal fan base following you, I don't think it would really matter.
Exactly. And if that is your main concern, that someone might copy something. I mean, obviously you've got IP issues, and obviously you have to protect your IP. But I'm with you 100%. If that's your main concern, that someone might copy something of yours,
Yeah.
and that might be the breaking of your company, then I think you've got some other issues to deal with,
Yes,
potentially. Anyway,
that's fair enough.
but it's very interesting because your point about the COVID, like someone was saying to me the other day, why is it that community is so sort of like a hot topic at the moment in particular? And we can't sort of get away from the fact. Well, I mean, I think you can't get away from the fact that we've all come through COVID and we've all been locked up in our houses and we are all human and are absolutely sort of desperate for human connection and and a place to belong, as you said. But added to that, there's the whole thing about the what's it called? Sorry, the oh gosh, what's the word? The loneliness epidemic. Like people are just so lonely. There's loads
Yeah.
of reports on it now, and it's so unhealthy for us. So there's the one side of the customers being or people being lonely and being in their homes, working from home. There's also the fact that they're much more values led and purpose driven. But then on the business side, you've got a massive influx of new businesses coming to market because the sort of barrier to entry is so low. You've got so many no code brilliant options like Shopify, and you've got
Yeah.
various, Squarespace, so you can set up your website and so forth. So you've got the market being flooded by, in my sector, lots of subscription services, for example.
Yeah.
And so it's much more difficult for businesses to get cut through, because it's not only noisier, but it's also therefore more expensive to get your message across,
Mm.
through advertising and so forth. So you've got this sort of coming together of two sides of things. What with the customer side of things and the change in what's been going on with us as a society, and then also obviously businesses. So it's very interesting, and so although community has been around way before COVID and so forth, I do think it's at quite a sort of turning point now.
Yeah. In your world of working with membership organizations, um, I saw a tweet recently which was, it feels like we've all just accepted that we're going to pay £10 a month for the rest of our lives to listen to music on Spotify. Are you starting to feel people becoming a little bit burnt out with monthly subscriptions just leaving their bank, or have you not really felt any impact of people kind of growing a little bit tired of having to spend everything being a monthly subscription?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting question that, and it's an area that we're working in around a lot actually at the moment because yes, organisations are seeing an increase in churn.
Hmm.
Why are they seeing that? Well, because, as you say, a little bit perhaps, getting a bit tired of all these subscription costs that are going out the door, but also obviously we're living through a massive cost of living crisis.
Yeah.
So people are looking at their discretionary spend. Can't get that word out. Sorry. And so subscription businesses are under pressure big time on offering a really good service, and I
Mm.
think with all of it customers expect a great product.
Hmm.
That's not question, no question about that. They're expecting a pretty high level of product, but what is sort of the game changer or the differentiator for organizations is that the ones that have the community offering, so like for example Spotify has a great community offering,
Hmm.
those are being more resilient really because they have that extra stickiness basically. So I
Yeah.
personally am working with a number of organizations on just this, how can they harness that advocacy so that they don't lose yet more customers basically.
Yeah. It's about creating that value, isn't it? It's that value transaction. And
Yeah.
we've been talking a lot as an agency recently in that we've got a lot of clients who have like monthly retainers with us, and that's great. And traditionally, you can exchange essentially money for time. But through what we're going through now with the economic downturn and whatnot, we have to be providing more value, whether that's introductions, whether that's submitting our clients for awards, whether that's, training, whatever it is, there needs to be more value given than just the normal.
Yeah.
And I think we're seeing that across the
Yeah.
board with lots of products. Like people are happy to, drop their Netflix subscription for a few months while they wait for something else to come out, while they watch something, where go back a few years and people
Mm,
will just have everything. And now people were like, oh, I can be a bit more savvy about this and a bit more smart around what I'm paying for.
exactly. And the thing is, if you're part of a community, you're much less likely to want to give that up.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas if you're just, you've got your transaction going out, like for example, actually, but in my opinion, Netflix does not do very well on the community element. It's a very transactional relationship with the
Yeah.
organization. And, we all keep using it because it's got great content still, but, they do have to be careful because you just don't know who might be coming up behind them, or they
Yeah.
don't know who's coming up behind them.
Well, we're going to stack in some questions, which I'm excited about. I'm excited to
Okay.
dig into your expertise and kind of run through these. So, Madeline, what would be your number one tip for growth, either in terms of size of a community or just kind of pushing towards whatever your community's goals and aspirations are? Because maybe your community's goals and aspirations isn't to actually grow in, numerical numbers.
Okay. So I think all of this, and I think you touched on this just a minute ago, is value. So answering a need for your customers or members or stakeholders. If you don't do that, and if you're not laser focused on that, you're not going to grow.
Mm,
It's as simple as that. And I think sometimes some businesses kind of get lost or forget the fact that they are serving the customers within the community. And sometimes you have discussions or conversations with people where they say, oh no, well, we give them enough value, I'm sure, but actually you've got to be really laser focused on the value
mm,
proposition that you're giving your members. What goal or aspirations do they have? What pain points do they have? How is your community answering that? And as long as you're clear on that, then you will be okay. But if you don't answer that and you're not clear on it yourself as an organization, then you will struggle.
And how are you measuring that? Because I'm always aware that community managers are often generalists who can juggle many things at once. And one of those roles is often basically data analyst, which is pretty wild. Let's be honest. It's quite a specific role, which often community managers have to pick up as well. Um, how are you measuring success with the factors you just mentioned there?
But in terms of value, the
Yeah.
offering of value, yeah. So I mean, like it's a tricky one, and actually, I think the community industry has been massively impacted with the sort of layoffs that we've been seeing across the world in the tech sector in the last few months. But and I think one of the reasons for that is because we're not always brilliant at showing the ROI, the return on
Mm,
investment for the activity that the community is having partly because there isn't usually a direct sort of financial measurement connected to the community.
mm,
But the areas that I would look at are, as I say, decrease in churn numbers, um, increase, decrease in the cost of acquiring your customers as well, so that you know that basically you can say, well, the community is obviously helping because we've got more members or customers coming in at lower prices, and then also growth in numbers. But then you can also sort of dig in deeper. I mean, it depends what you're like as a business, what your focus is as well.
mm,
But like you could look in deeper as to like how many monthly active users there are, also or daily active users, or general logins, or comments on posts, or likes, or number of event attendees. There's lots of areas that you can track, and it depends what the sort of priorities are for the organization in question. So yeah, but like the message to all community managers is do make sure you're tracking it, because
mm.
like find out what's important for the business and
Yeah.
then make sure you're tracking it, because otherwise you could be in trouble.
Yeah, for sure. It's a really good answer. I've um I've got a talk that I occasionally kind of get a chance to share, which is community first, product second, meaning that I think anybody starting a new product should spend the first 3-6 months building a community before they actually ship anything, because it's much easier to launch to, even if it's like 100 members of your community, than to no one. Have you had an experience of working with a product where they focused on kind of building a newsletter or any kind of community before actually having the product, or do you generally come in at a later stage where everything's kind of already on the road almost?
So my personal experience has been that the latter, because I work a lot with traditional media organizations who have a sizable customer base and they need to
Hmm.
engage them more effectively. But I do know of lots of examples. So, for example, I don't know if you know Finimize, which is a
Yep.
great community, but they very much
Michelle
built their
Sims.
community first. And yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they built their community before they actually produced what is their product now. So they had built a newsletter, which is now over 1 million readers, I think, isn't it?
Wow.
But that's a great example of very much taking your community with you. And I'm with you 100%. I'd love to hear your talk sometime, because that whole idea of building a sort of core group that come with you, that
Yeah.
then are your biggest advocates and out in the market,
Yeah.
talking about what you're doing, is so strong.
I think one thing which isn't mentioned. We always talk about custom acquisition or all those kind of things when it comes to community, especially in the early stage. One thing which is often missed out is hiring. Having a strong community where everyone knows what you stand for, who you are, how you treat people, hiring becomes so much easier. People will be, passing you CVs rather than you really digging for them. If you
Totally.
Yeah, so much easier. And hiring is so hard, even with tech layoffs and whatnot going on around the world. It's still hard to find the right good people which align with you. But if you've already got a community of whatever number of people who know your values, know you're active, know your how you work, and you can reach out to that pool of people and they know people and whatnot, it just makes life so much easier.
Totally. Yeah, definitely. I was speaking to Katie the other day. She runs the alumni net. I can't something alumni community or something. I can't
Okay.
remember what they're called. But they do exactly that. So they help businesses to actually have internal alumni communities,
Mm,
so that they are. And one of the main reasons for companies to do that is to make sure there's people on the ground, sort of flying the flag of the organisation, because actually not only, so yes, of course you can have your customer community flying the flag and then you can find staff that way, but
mm,
also your core staff can also maintain their community, can be a community,
yeah.
and they can also fly the flag either when they're there or after they've worked with you.
Yeah. Fab. So let's chat about engagement. So when it comes to, we've talked about kind of trying to grow. What about trying to keep those people in membership world? Do you have a couple of like things that you would instantly look at to try and increase engagement?
Yeah, I mean, again, I go back to that point that you have to look at what the value is that you're giving. And if it turns out that you're not giving that enough, then you probably won't be getting the engagement you're looking for.
Mm,
Engagement is a big term, so what I always do with clients when I'm talking to them around this point, when they come to me and they say, we need some more engagement, is really drill down on what type of engagement they're looking for. So,
mm,
is it, to my point earlier, is it that you want more people to come to your events? Is it that you want people to comment more on your posts or share your posts, or whatever it might be? And then it's again going back to that question of, okay, so we want, say, for example, more people to come to our events. Okay, that's clear. Or we want people to keep returning to our events, so the same people coming to more events. So that's clear. But then you need to go back to the sort of ambitions or goals or pain points of your members, and make sure that those events are actually answering those needs really
mm,
of the customers. And then you have a clear sort of uh, focus of what you need to do for engagement. And then there's lots of ways to generate engagement, whether it's challenges or podcasts like you're doing, or newsletters, or whatever it might be, or bringing your getting your customers to host events, or it's kind of easier in a way to come up with the actual mechanism
Yeah.
after you've got clear on that sort of fundamental sort of what are you looking for
Yeah.
exactly, and what is it that your members need.
Yeah. From people working in the community industry, I hear time and time again that their top tips are clarity. You just need to know what clarity is, because I guess um, it would be quite easy for a community manager working by themselves to go off, do loads of great things. But if they haven't got clarity over what their management needs or wants in return, you might be increasing number of comments on your posts, or increasing the number of community written articles or whatever it is. But if that's not ultimately turning into the value which the business needs, which might be you know dropping customer acquisition or whatever it is, then you're not returning the correct value, you're just returning a different value. And while that's not negative, it's just maybe not what's required of you right now.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, again, it goes back to that thing we were saying, that you've got to be clear on your business
Mm,
goals as well with your community, because if and also get everyone in the company aligned on what those
yeah,
are. So involve all the channels around, so marketing and obviously your
yeah,
C-suite and so forth. Um, but yes, I'm with you.
yeah. It's not a charitable department. It's not just a fluffy little add-on. It's something which is serious, can be expensive and whatnot. Like, it needs to be taken with the same sort of weight and gravitas as the marketing department, for example.
Oh, totally. It can, yes, and it's tough as well. I mean, some people I talk to, they sort of assume let's just build and people will come. Well, no, I'm afraid it doesn't quite work like that. It does take a huge amount of effort, and authentic effort as well. A lot of people again are starting to say, "Oh yeah, we just need a community." Well, yeah, that's great. I'm really pleased that you do would like to look at this, but you've got to be authentic in this process. People
Yeah,
will work out if you're just doing it as a sort of tick box or a marketing effort or whatever.
yeah.
You've got to really want to help your customers.
Fab. So, in the next 12 months in the world of Madeline, what's coming up? What are you excited about? What's going on?
Well, I'm hugely excited. I mean, my business is pretty early stage, so I'm hugely excited to grow that
Mhm.
yet further, hopefully, touch wood. And I'm working with some really interesting organizations at the moment, both in the community, sorry, in the membership and subscription space, but also not, which is very exciting. So I will look forward to doing more of that, helping them with their growth strategies. But then we recently launched the Community Pros of London as well,
Yeah.
which is a free and volunteer organisation. So if anyone who is in the community industry would like to join, please do sign up. It's communityprosoflondon.com. And I'm one of the founders for that with Claire and Laura. And so I'm sure we will be busy with that as well, which I'm really excited about.
It's really exciting. We've had Claire on, and I think Laura's joining us on the podcast in a few weeks. So yeah,
Oh,
we'll have
fantastic.
the whole crew on.
Yay.
So yeah, no, really exciting.
Good. Yes, I'm very excited about Community Pros London. Yeah.
It's really good. It's really good. It's really good. It's very much needed. So, Madeline, where's the best place for people to find out more about you, about what you're doing, or ask any questions they may have?
Yeah, I mean, people should, please do reach out on LinkedIn. It's just Madeleine Milne, all one word, as the end of, whatever, linkedin.com/. Otherwise, my website is Customerization, so customer-ization.com.
Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been so good to chat and gain your wisdom into these topics, and I really do appreciate your time.
Well, it's been fantastic to chat to you. I'm so pleased to join you. And yeah, good luck with your podcast and good luck with Steadfast.
Fantastic. Thank you. Speak soon.